China was a major focus today up on the Hill. A slew of hearings taking place assessing the threat that China poses to the U.S. Conventional wisdom might say that making money together through trade deals could provide a buffer to national security. But the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that both sides right now aren't even talking.
There are 18 very important trading relationships. We are currently negotiating with 17 of those trading partners. China, we have not engaged in negotiations with as of yet.
At a separate hearing, the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem dropped this warning about China's capability of potentially harming the U.S.
As technology advances, so do the threats to our nation, and that's why cybersecurity is so crucial to our future. Countries like Communist China have both the capability and the intent to infiltrate and to potentially disrupt our critical infrastructure systems.
Congress also diving into what China might be doing in our own backyard. China has been establishing a footprint in Cuba, which lies just 90 miles from the southernmost point of Key West. And now these satellite images are at the heart of a hearing today. Real questions about China possibly building up its intelligence apparatus in Cuba to potentially use it on us here in the U.S.
Recent satellite imagery and open source analysis suggest the presence of several Chinese-funded signals and intelligence facilities across Cuba. The possibility that these sites are capable of monitoring U.S. military operations, commercial shipping, space launches, and sensitive communications is deeply troubling.
The man you just heard from right there, Congressman Carlos Gimenez, chairman of the Transportation and Maritime Security Subcommittee, joins us live tonight here on the Hill. Congressman, nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you, too.
So you know this because you're from Miami. I know this because I'm from Miami. We laid it out there. Cuba is just 90 miles away, right, from the southernmost point. Havana is closer to Orlando than basically Nashville is to Detroit, right, just for some context. And we're looking at these images on this. Yeah, that's right. And we're looking at these images on the screen of concern. What are we looking at here? What did your committee find out, and what's the worry?
Well, the worry is that what we're looking at is the buildup of Chinese spy apparatus in the communist, in communist Cuba, and so the worry is that they're building up advanced capabilities to monitor the United States, the infrastructure of the United States, transportation infrastructure, our space launches, which is just up the road in Cape Canaveral, and also surrounding Florida is actually the largest training grounds that we have for aerial combat.
The
only one that really can simulate aerial combat with, exactly, but it's only the only one that can really simulate any type of aerial combat that we may have in the Taiwan Straits. And so I'm sure the Chinese are really interested in our tactics, and so all of that is at risk with all these spy stations that they're setting up in Cuba.
You were born in Havana, so I don't need to tell you the history, obviously. But for our audience here on NewsNation or those listening to us on Sirius XM, there have been relations between China and Cuba dating back to the 60s, right? And even there was the belief as early as 1999, maybe, that they were starting to share some intelligence, or at least an intelligence presence. What's changed now, and why now, Congressman?
Well, it used to be that Russia was dominant in Cuba, but that's being supplanted now by the Chinese, and I believe the Chinese have much greater capability than the Russians do. They have, a much greater, economic capability, and now their military capability is much greater than Russia. Look, China is our greatest threat to our security. And they're making inroads not only in Cuba, but all throughout the Western Hemisphere. They have space stations down in Argentina. We know that they have controlled both sides of the Panama Canal. They're signing agreements left and right in our own hemisphere. But Cuba is really the head of the snake. And so Cuba has always had intelligence sharing with the Russians, with the Chinese, because they share that ideology and they hate the United States. We're their enemy. And so that's happened for a long, long time. But now these are new developments, and they're increasing their capability down in Cuba.
So what should President Trump do about it, I guess, is the next natural question, right? You're a Republican. Republicans control Washington. You had this hearing today. What should the commander-in-chief do?
I think the commander-in-chief should put maximum pressure on Cuba. There's things that I've asked the Trump administration to do. I've asked them to stop flights to Cuba, both in and out. I've asked them to stop remittances from the United States into Cuba that feeds the regime with billions of dollars. I've asked them to take action against those countries that are contracting with Cuba for doctors and nurses. By the way, those countries are actually contracting directly with Cuba. They pay Cuba directly. Those doctors and nurses aren't receiving those funds, and therefore this is modern-day slavery. Those are just three of the things we should be doing. We should be putting maximum pressure on Cuba because I believe the regime it's at its weakest point in decades, and we need to take advantage of that. What we need is regime change down in Cuba.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Are you pushing for
a friend?
Yeah, are you pushing for regime change?
Yeah, I am, but I'm not pushing for military, action in that regards. We need to change Cuba from an enemy to a friend, and we need to see what we can do to bring democratic reform and freedom to the people of Cuba who have been looking for that for over 6 decades.
You are also, Congressman, on the House Homeland Security Committee, and let me move you to a story real quick that the president made news with yesterday, which was the concept of housing, as he puts it, the most ruthless and violent that there are at Alcatraz. And there was another hearing today involving the Bureau of Prisons. And here was a Democrat from your state just down the road, Jared Moskowitz, asking this question. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
You think it's a good idea to reopen Alcatraz? You think the faith-based community has been pounding the table to reopen Alcatraz?
Prison Fellowship's stance is that prisons should be safe, effective, efficient, and uphold human dignity.
Okay, let me make it easier for you. All 4 of you, which one of you think we should reopen Alcatraz? Just raise your hand. Okay.
I don't know if you have a monitor there, but no one raised their hand. As a member of the Homeland Security Committee, are you for this idea of using Alcatraz? Or do you think that's really not realistic?
Well, I think it's also it's a messaging that the president is tough on crime, and there's no more safe, secure prison than Alcatraz, and so it would be a signal to the criminal element here in the United States that this president is tough on crime. It's one of the things that really the president stands out for. So the president thinks that it's a good idea. We need to have hearings on it, hearing from all sides, and determine whether it's a good idea or not to open up Alcatraz.
Have hearings to learn. All right, we'll leave it there. Congressman Gimenez, as I said, always nice to see you, sir. Covered you, as he knows, for about 15 years now. And with us tonight here on the Hill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.